Welcome into another episode of Discard for Magic. I'm one of your hosts, Aaron.
I'm the other host, James or Jexic. And today, it's just going to be us, and we're going to try something new. We're going to be looking back at SW Zone League Season 33 and look at all the matchups and do a breakdown of all of them and see what kind of insights we can get. And importantly, to start, I'm going to congratulate Aaron. He just won it for the fourth time total, which means he's just one win behind Massimo and Profit and two behind Donkey, the legend of yore. So now he's got two in a row, and he's won 3 out of the last 4 seasons. So he's on a bit of a tear here.
Well, thank you, sir. It's interesting. We're going to break down some of the matchups from this past season and how the stats line up and how our matchups went and like what we saw in each matchup. And then we'll give a little bit of advice on like how to attack each matchup from each side and how to go about winning it.
First matchup that was in the league was Guild Dwarves versus the Polar Dwarves. This whole theme of this month was old versus new. So it was always like a Wave 1 faction against a Wave 5 faction. In this case, they pitted the Dwarves against each other. The Guild Dwarves actually only won 36% of the time versus the 64% of the Polar Dwarves, which shocked a lot of people. Aaron himself won both sides. He managed to win as a Guild Dwarves, and I had a Polar Dwarves split, which kind of just fits the data that we saw in general. So Aaron, why do you think this might be a tough one for the Guild Dwarves?
I think it might be tough for the Guild Dwarves in a couple different ways. One of which the Polar Dwarves have the ability to like respond with range. They can sit back and sit at range and wait for like the Guild Dwarves to come to them, which isn't always the Guild Dwarves' strong suit. And they have largely a better range than the Guild Dwarves, unless you get, which we'll maybe touch on a little bit more, but unless you get supply cache, the weapons cache early as the Guild Dwarves, then if you get that card, then you can continue to renew that, and that can help you have the range to fight Polar Dwarves and make it more of an even fight. And then the other aspect is a lot of the forcing that the Guild Dwarves tend to do doesn't affect the Polar Dwarves as much, not because they can't be forced, but because largely they're pretty like structure heavy and have normally a lot of units in that area, a lot of units and structures.
There's nowhere to go.
Yeah, there's nowhere to go a lot of times. So I found using that to my advantage as the Polar Dwarves is like, you can't force me if there's no place for you to force me. Or if like the only place you can force me is like towards you, that doesn't work because that's not how the ability for like the ballista works. You always have to force away. So a lot of the times that was how I dealt with the forcing and different aspects of that. I was actually pretty aggressive. I ended up on Nestle's side of the battlefield for a good majority. Played in the midfield for a chunk of it, but I was up in the like back 3 rows, I think, at one point, or like pretty close to it with Savara towards the end there. I was in that midfield as the Polar Dwarves and then built off from there.
Seems kind of risky to get into Guild Dwarves territory, though, because they can build their like battering rams and other units.
Yeah, it definitely is. So you got to be aware of that. I don't think I actually had Savara all the way in like the back 3 rows, but I definitely had her up like on the opponent's side of the board and around that like midfield area. But yeah, that's definitely something you got to watch out for in this matchup is if you're not careful, it could end quick against the Polar Dwarves if they have the ability to force you and they get like a battering ram or they get like a Baldur's Gate behind you can be really tough. And if Savara can't move, you're kind of in checkmate because Savara's ability depends on her moving. So that's something you really want to watch out for when you're the Polar Dwarves.
I'm trying to remember what happened with my games. I think we just followed the data, and there was a general trend of like, okay, you can't force a Frost Mage if it's surrounded by stuff, or you can't force a Parapet unless you get a battering ram all the way up against it, kind of thing. I feel like Ice Repair is pretty good in this matchup too, just to kind of heal off some of the damage as it comes.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that you can use as like the Guild Dwarves is using your Guild Defenders to kind of lock things into place. Because if you like get a Guild Defender up against like an Ice Golem, more times than not, they're not going to want to move that off to move one space, likely not be able to attack anything unless they force it with something else, and take the 2 damage. Because that 2 damage is real rough. So I think Guild Defenders can be real good in this matchup. I summoned a fair amount of the engineers. I think I summoned like 3 out of the 4s. And I summoned some ballistas and some catapults as needed. I did summon Grundor, I believe was my only champ.
That's the one that lets you summon diagonal or build diagonally.
And I used that to actually win the game against Nestle. That diagonal build is how I got a Baldur's Gate like up behind Nestle's Savara to win the game. Nestle probably had the econ on me to outlast me. I had made it pretty close because I had gotten early supply caches that I had kept pretty hidden and reused a lot. And I had some late battering rams that might have made it a little bit dicey for Nestle, which is why Nestle was pushing up trying to make something happen. Overall, I think the real reason was that Grundor at the end, and then having the ability to get Baldur's Gate out. I only had, I think, 1 unit left to summon off the Baldur's Gate that I had kept purposefully for when I picked that Baldur's Gate back up and then redeployed it.
That's the tough thing about facing the guild dwarves. If you don't finish off those structures, they're going to come back, and some of them can do a lot the turn they come into play, like the Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, and there's a couple things you really got to watch out for as the guild dwarves is you really want to keep like your engineers and your supply caches in spots that they can be useful but also safe. Because if you lose a lot of your engineers early or like your supply caches early and you can't really get them back, I mean you could get 1 back with Grundor, but if you can't get those back, then it's hard to deal with the polar dwarves even more so than it already is because those are the things that are going to help you to move your stuff around and to get those extra dice and draws with your supply caches. The other thing that I think you want to take note of in this matchup is trying to prevent, and this is not entirely possible, but trying to prevent big Ice Ram turns. Because Ice Ram Glacial Shift can really devastate the Guild Dwarves, partially because a lot of their units can't move. If they're not moving, they're easier to ram and set up where you want them to be. That's something that can be pretty devastating to the Guild Dwarves, is a couple big Ice Ram turns.
So I think that covers it pretty well. Should we move on to the next matchup? Keep it moving along.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, so the second week was the Chosen Grove versus the Fallen Kingdom. The surprising thing, for us at least, is that the Chosen Grove won 38% of their games versus the Fallen Kingdom 62%, which I think most people kind of expected just because Fallen Kingdom have the ability to blow up the tree, do a lot of damage to stationary targets that can't avoid what they're doing. However, all 4 of the games that Aaron and I played saw the Chosen Grove winning, so we each had Chosen Grove splits. So I guess I started it, but like, why do we think this, at least according to the data, was a tough matchup for the Chosen Grove?
So I feel like this in my...
Or do you think we did it the right way and everyone else did it wrong?
I feel like it doesn't... The Chosen Grove, I feel like it's more close to 50-50 than this data tells us. It might still be slightly Fallen Kingdom, but for the most part in my games, if you're safe with the tree and you don't let yourself get open to like any warriors or any like big attacks, you can outlast the Fallen Kingdom. And the nice thing about the Chosen Grove playing the Fallen Kingdom is you don't have to worry about carriers as much because you have so many tools to get rid of carriers. You can use like uproots, you can use the tree's health and attack, you can use your champions, like all 3 of your champions can get rid of carriers. You can use protect on your Oaksworn guards. You can do hit and runs with the stag riders. So like there's a lot of different aspects in which you can do to get rid of the carriers of the Fallen Kingdom, which takes away the Fallen Kingdom's basically only econ. So like Fallen Kingdom is not a good econ deck.
In our games that I played, it just like the Chosen Grove just kind of outlasted, and I think Oaksworn Guard was a big part of that, just being a big beefy unit that was tough to take out, made it tough to get around and attack the juicier targets.
And you can use like Spring to heal and
so yeah, just use
Autumn to reposition and Summer to secure those kills. That's how it ended in my game as well. And not having the ability to get those infects with carriers, and if you're careful with the tree, because if you leave the tree open to like big turns by the Fallen Kingdom, they'll definitely punish you. They're one of the best decks at like punishing in the game.
I feel like the classic thing of like placing a gate in front of Nimid is a good thing to do here in this matchup, just to give you more health between you and those explosive turns.
And gates they can't purge through, and they can't get around in that same fashion.
They can't be infected, all that kind of stuff. So,
Hmm.
yeah. I think putting a gate in front of Nimid, I seem to remember that happening. If it gets to end game, where you have a mobile tree versus Rhett Talus, who's going to win there?
Hmm. Yeah, and both of my games got pretty close to end game.
I think mine did, and I think just talking about things that aren't good infect targets, like Knight of Seasons. He's just a big dude. This is going to one-shot all the carriers and warriors.
Yeah,
So.
and I ended my game with Night of Seasons, and then I finished Rhett off. Tever went for a push up with Rhett, and I had a Sea Bearer in hand still, and it was like one of my last cards, and so I used it to pull the blocker out of the way, and then I had Seasons out already for a couple turns, and just moved Night of Seasons like 5 or 6 attack up against Rhett, and won the game that way. But I was probably going to win the game outlasting also. Like I had the units left to finish that econ, but we were down to our last couple cards in both of our games. So I think if this game goes long, which I think it definitely can, I think it favors the Chosen Grove maybe. But yeah, you just gotta. I've played against the Fallen Kingdom a lot, and so protecting myself against the Fallen Kingdom is something that I'm pretty used to. It's hard to do sometimes with the purges and the blood summons and the infects.
Next up was a quote-unquote human face-off, the Drakesun Rebellion versus the Vanguards. Drakesun Rebellion, actually the closest matchup of the 5 this season, but they won by 55% to 45% margin. Aaron had a Drakesun Rebellion split, so both of them won with Drakesun, and I actually won both sides versus Devlinfish. Although I think one of them went to time, like they were very busy that weekend or something, and they just kind of. So I forgot which one actually went to time, but it was one I was probably winning anyway. But it was one of the ones I picked, and I thought Vanguards would have a decent shot, just because Vanguards are really good against the other factions that like to dive in and fly around. So I wouldn't be surprised if people play this one more if it got a little closer. But I don't know. You had Drakeson win both of your games. What did you see going on?
Yeah, I think it is like a pretty close to 50-50 in this matchup. It felt pretty even in both our games. I made a mistake as Vanguards. I probably should have won that game. Out of all the games I lost this season, that's the game I probably should have won the most. I got trapped essentially as Vanguard. I thought I had enough. I had like almost a full health Sarah, and I was like, oh, there's no way I get trapped for like 3 turns or whatever and can't kill Pyra. Pyra was already like I think hit once or twice and only had like 8 health or something left. And I was like, oh, I have knights to protect and stuff. There was just enough health to go through that I didn't make it out alive. But if I had just been a little safer with Sarah, I probably would have got out of that one with both wins. But I think Drakeson have the ability to surprise vanguards like that. When I played the Drakeson side, I was pretty dominant, but like I took out the gate early and I like trapped Sarah in the corner. There wasn't a whole lot of options for Guy to take. And so I think there's definitely the tools for Drakeson to deal with the vanguards, but I think the vanguards have the ability to like shut down some of those flying lanes with the knights, and they can outlast with their defensive abilities, and they can get Colleen out and not take as much damage, and they can definitely win that long game and push it long, or they can even surprise potentially with like a renewed hope and like get rid of Brimstone and leave Pyra stranded. Definitely ways for the Vanguards to win it, but with Cole on the other side, who is going to hurt the Vanguards a lot, and some of those other aspects, I think it might be slightly Drake's son, but it's probably pretty close to 50-50. I don't know. How did your games go?
I think the big card, like you highlighted briefly, is probably going to be renewed hope for the Vanguards. A common thing I've been hearing lately in general with the Vanguards is like it's good to build to a lot of magic and then have renewed hope ready to go and just surprise somebody. And you're saying trying not to get trapped. So it's probably good to try to contest the mid board a bit. Like if you happen to go first or whatever, just try to pressure their gate or like put guys on the diagonals of the gate so that if they're going to move a dragon out of there, they're going to take some damage along the way. The one thing I will point out, though, is that you can carry a unit over a Citadel Knight as the Drakes on Rebellion, and even not take damage if you just kind of hop over, stay adjacent by the end of the move with Brimstorm or the Wormlings. If you just kind of hop over the Knight, drop something on the other side. So you kind of have to look for those moves as the Vanguards to try to make sure they don't have spots to drop their guys off.
I also think one thing that plays into this a little bit, I said I got trapped, and if I had kept my Renewed Hope, my second copy or whatever, I would have been fine because could kill people on like one of the two sides I got trapped on and just take that space back and then get out like next turn. But I didn't have my second copy of Renewed Hope. I had already used it, and I had like a pretty good turn with it, but if I had kept that, I potentially probably could have had a lot more options also. I mean, there's a fair amount of like direct damage that the Drake Sun can do as well, but that doesn't normally hurt the Vanguards as much because they have so much health and they have like mass heal, and Colleen may be limiting damage as well of the attacks. I think it's definitely like winnable from both sides, but an interesting matchup for sure. I enjoyed it, and I think the Vanguards just are great at shutting down those lanes. I didn't even get to use the new Jacob. I haven't even used the new Jacob yet. But
Yeah, I think he'd be good there too if you have enough magic to hit stuff hard. He kind of gives something that they're like, oh, I gotta kill Jacob now, and then if they do, it's damage that's not done to Sarah and that kind of stuff, and then you still have the magic that you were using to have him hit hard to go summon another champion after. And so I think it's really funny that Jacob's now good because he was based off of essentially a 1E, a first edition like melee champion named Leah that was functionally very similar. Just didn't she had 0 attack base and like 4 or 5.
People really liked her as well.
Next matchup, a Clash of the Titans with the Filth versus the Savannah Elves, usually both considered top tier decks. But the Filth came out ahead at 61% versus the Savannah Elves 39%. Aaron won both sides, so he managed to win with the Savannah Elves, and I had a Filth split. From what I saw, was with the Filth winning both the games. I think it's just kind of tough for the Savannah Elves to survive once they start getting in your face. Filth can do that with Winged and other ways of getting down the field. I don't think the Filth are going to necessarily win a long game, but if they force it with Volatile Flesh and other things to just hit the summoner a few times, 3 or 4 times, and that could be the game.
Did your games go by assassination? Did Filth assassinate both games?
I believe so. I could double check, but I think one of them went a bit longer. I could double check quick.
So in my games, the game I won is Savannah Elves. I was able to get a fairly decent shot at Demagogue about halfway through the game, and I took it and I rolled real well, and I just ended the game right there. I would rolled. What did I throw? I think Demagogue was like full health, so I think 12 health or like pretty close to it, maybe 10 health, somewhere around there. And I threw like 17 dice or something at Demagogue, and I just rolled 13 out of the 17 hits, or like 12 out of the 17 or something. Like rolled real well, mostly ranged.
You got an
dice.
early win with the Savannah Elves as well. The one thing I will say about Savannah Elves is they're one of the few decks that can actually deal with Abomination because of the similar sort of chant of power situation. So maybe you don't even really go for a Abomination in this matchup as the Filth because it's not that necessary, I feel like.
Yeah, so I won that one with Chant of Power, Entangling, Archer, and Spirit Mage. Bradoff, I don't think, wasn't fully expecting it, but the game as Filth, you said they couldn't win the long game, and that's how I won it, Jack6. So I went.
So they can win the long game.
Yeah, I took it the entire length down to everybody was basically decked out, and I did take Abomination on the battlefield. And endgame Abomination, I feel like, has a little more options because most likely you've seen a fair amount of their cards, so you don't have to worry as much about those combos. And I was kind of dancing around those combos the entire time because I knew that Bradoff was holding on to one of them.
One of the Chant of Powers.
Yeah, Chant of Power, Entangling. But I was able to survive that because I just kept trying to take out his couple units, so he didn't have the units to really get a good Chant of Power Entangling off. And I also had a full health Demagogue sitting back, so I knew that even if he did a half decent Chant of Power, I had probably the ability to finish him off with Demagogue in my last couple mutants after that, because he didn't have much left. I hadn't had Demagogue really in the fray at all, or he hadn't taken almost any damage. And so I had that ability to sort of eat that Chant of Power with Abomination if I needed to. It didn't end up happening until like the end of the game, and it was basically too late. He used it with Makenda Rue actually, and just like it wasn't the full amount, and didn't have a real chance to kill the Abomination, except maybe a perfect roll, I think. And so that is how I finished that game off. But Abomination in the end game was very, very helpful because I got like Bestial Mutant on him, and he was bringing in more boosts and killing units, and it was real nice.
All right, I'm a liar too. I played Abomination as well. I didn't go all the way to Econ, but I did manage to just get an Abomination pretty beefy, up to 4 attack and attack diagonally to kind of win with a Volatile Flash. And he had full health. I did like Bursting Mutant into Horror Mutant with Volatile Flash and had the Abomination attack diagonally to take him out. It was around turn 18, so not a short game, but not an extra long game either.
Yeah, and I forgot one aspect of my win as Savannah Elves. Bradolph rolled poorly on a Spirit Mage the turn before, and rolled 1 out of 4 with Demagogue, leaving a Spirit Mage next to him. And so I had the like cards to continue to play Econ, take out a couple of his mutants, and I was ahead on Econ. But I decided to take that shot because I had Entangling, Weaving, Power, and Archer in hand. So I did a Weaving off that Spirit Mage to drop the Archer in, and I had 2 boosts on Abuishi as well. And so then I moved Abuishi up, and I entangled them to both those units, and then I hit. Here's the crazy dice. I didn't even roll any dice with my Archer because I didn't need the Archer's attacks because the Spirit Mage killed Demagogue.
You went like 13 out of 16 or something.
Full health Demagogue, I went 12 out of 15.
Wow.
I missed 2 dice. I rolled 8 out of 8 on my first attack. Insane. Like, I had another 4 dice coming from the Border Archer, but I didn't need them. I was going to throw 19 dice at 12 health Demagogue, which had a pretty good chance to kill. I think it was like 78 or something. But I had 2 mutants in Abuishi's face when I did this. So I was going to abort if I rolled poorly on Demagogue and just take out those 2 mutants. But I rolled so well on Demagogue with that first attack, I was like, I can end this right here because both of them had that Swift shot. So I could, the way it was lined up, I could either attack one of the mutants or attack Demagogue with both those units. So I had options. But yeah, it worked out really well. And I highly recommend just rolling all of your dice as hits every time. It's pretty great.
So looking at my game when I lost to Savannah Elves, it actually went pretty long too. It went up to like 30 turns. And I think I kind of did lose Econ. I got Demagogue down to 1 health. So I think I had a shot with a Rhino to win that I whiffed. If I'm looking at this correctly. Oh no, he only had 3 health. Oh, he had 3 health, not. Maybe I was just hoping he wouldn't kill my Rhino. Because I got all the way back there. Yeah, maybe I just thought he didn't have the juice to kill the Rhino. So he needed to go 5 out of 6 on my Rhino with Demagogue and a Winged Mutant to not lose, basically.
Yeah, that's, I mean...
Yeah, it happens. I had a decent shot at winning the Econ game as the Savannah Elves, essentially. Going for a little cheeky assassin play with a Rhino. Last matchup, right? It's the last one next. I actually wanted this one to be Spectral Conclave versus the Breakers because I thought Breakers would have a pretty good shot at the Conclave since they have all the ranged units.
Before we move on to the next matchup, I misremembered about my Filth matchup as well. It played out mostly how I remember, but I forgot that I whiffed on Abuishi with Abomination. I had the second to last roll, I had like 5 dice to kill Abuishi. Abuishi had like 4 health or something. And Abomination rolled 2 out of 5. So Abuishi got left with 2 health. That gave the Abuishi Makenda Rue a chance to kill Abomination. It still put Abuishi in a chance to lose because I had 12 health still on Demagogue, and I could attack Abuishi next turn in the position that he had to go to kill the Abomination. But he had tons of dice to roll on Abomination, and he rolled...
Worse?
Yeah, he rolled 4 out of 11 with Makenda Rue with the Chant of Power.
Ouch.
So not enough to kill the Abomination. Left the Abomination at 2 health. But you were saying Cave Goblins versus Spectral Conclave is in
Yeah,
that
Cave
one?
Goblins versus Spectral Conclave. It ended up at about 57.5% for Spectral Conclave versus the 42.5% for the Cave Goblins. One thing I noticed looking at the data was that there was a big first turn discrepancy. Like Spectral Conclave won like 2/3 of their games if they went first, and Cave Goblins actually had a slightly winning rate if they went first. It was like 50, 51 or 52%. It was probably a lot about the momentum of that early game, being able to try to like block the other person's gate, that kind of thing. What we found in the games that you and I played, Spectral Conclave won all 5 of the games. We each had a split, and then you also played it for the final or the tiebreaker to win against Tever Peggle. Seems tough for the Cave Goblins, largely because I guess they're a mostly melee faction, and their summoner likes to walk up and hit stuff, and he can't, even though you can sly and get out, because you basically need to use like cling or your events to get adjacent to stuff, which is possible. It's doable. But if you don't get the gate timing, or if you get your gates clogged by Spectral Conclave, it seems like a tough thing to do.
Yeah, I actually think this might be one of the most lopsided ones in this pool of matchups. I think Spectral Conclave are the clear favorite in this matchup for some of the reasons you named, and also because like they just don't have the range. Cave Goblins don't have the range to deal with the Spectral Conclave. You only have
2 range dice with like slingers and
you have slingers who are
like
going to die very easily to return fire, and then you have like a slinger is almost never going to outshoot like a hawk, and they both cost 0. And hawks can come back. I guess slingers could too if they get unrelenting, but hawks can always come back. You're going to lose those gunfights if you're shooting at range, and you don't have the ability to really avoid giving a ton of boost if you go at melee. So I think what Cave Goblins have to do is they have to like pressure hard and pressure early and just like really push that to the limit if they can and get an opening, because Cave Goblins have the ability. Their saving grace in this matchup is if you give them an opportunity, they can kill you. Cave Goblins have some of the best like one turn kills in the game. And so if they have the right cards in hand and you give them an opening, they'll kill your summoner. And Farron does not have a ton of health. So if you've taken like a couple shots and you're down to like 6, 8 health, you're in danger territory against the Cave Goblins.
And I think because of the downside of Depart is that it doesn't make their blockers as useful.
100%, yeah.
You can kind of create those opportunities sometimes, but obviously then you give them boosts. So I think Cave Goblins probably want to actually, if they can, this is probably easier said than done, but actually surround the summoner if you can. You know, like if they put them next themselves next to a gate or something, you can maybe use that opportunity or to like surround it on 2 or 3 sides, and then you've basically got a chance to win with like pile on or something. But I do think the fact that, and also I think the way cling works with depart is important to note, because you can move next to something, have it depart, and then cling to place a clinger in that vacated spot.
Yeah, that's very important.
The sneak can be used to do that too. In a very similar fashion, you can move up, use depart, and then sneak into position. The event that moves all your 0 cost guys. So I think those are your 2 main tools: is clingers and sneak, to try to get in there and try to finish the job.
Yeah, those are definitely the things to highlight. And those are the things that are hard to plan for as Spectral Conclave. This, I think, out of all the matchups, was the one that hurt my brain the most. My head was twisted so much about when I was playing Spectral Conclave against Massimo's Cave Goblins. And part of it was probably just playing Massimo, who's a phenomenal player. But man, accounting for all of the different departs, that just makes my brain hurt. I'm like, well, if I go here and then I spit out a couple illusions here and then I spit out a couple illusions here, towards the end of that game, I ended up winning it, but I hadn't rolled well that entire game, and Massimo had rolled like pretty well, which had really set up that end game as real close. We both made a couple mistakes on either side. It was hard to stay out of the line of fire. Massimo got a couple gates, destroyed a couple of my gates, and got a couple forward gates out as Cave Goblins, making it tough for me to deal with all the angles he was coming from. And I was pretty pinned in the corner. I ended with 1 health as Farron. I pulled it out just barely.
So that's probably the win that helped you get into that trophy running, right? Because Massimo was 6-4, right?
Yep, if I lose that, Massimo is either playing for the title or winning the title. I felt like that game was mine to lose. I did roll really bad. Like I had an early turn where I was using a bunch of illusion units, and I was using Unleash, their epic event, and threw a ton of dice, and I just rolled super poorly. I left like most of the units still alive, and I just didn't have a good time, and then because those units were left alive, he was able to clear out a lot of my space, and really it went downhill from there. I felt like I was pretty in control before that moment, but it was probably like a third or like halfway through the game, and that was really the one of the deciding turns. And then like I placed a gate a little closer than I probably should have, and he rolled 5 out of 5 to destroy that gate. And so I was on the back foot after that for sure. It was a really fun game to look back on, but that was one of the most my brain has hurt from a Summoner Wars game in a long time.
Yeah, I think Special Conclave will certainly do that. A lot of the Resolve factions will. I think the one that broke my brain the most a long time ago, I don't even remember who I was facing, but it was like High Elves and Fungal Dwarves in the league. And I was just like, what's going on? I remember there was one night where I was like, I know there's got to be some way I can win with the High Elves here, but I can't see it yet. I'm just going to put the phone down and go to bed.
Yeah.
And maybe I should do that more often. Maybe I'd make my way back up to Division 1. We'll see. I don't have a good start right now. I'm like 1-3. I just lost to Physic twice.
Tough. I definitely recommend putting like the game down if you can and just giving yourself a little bit of time to think about turns. Definitely has helped me do better in the SW Zone League. But I felt a lot more prepared in my tiebreaker match against Tever. I felt like I didn't make near as many mistakes. I did make a huge one towards the end that almost cost me the game. But I felt like for the majority of that game, I felt in control as a Spectral Conclave. I was actually very relieved when Tever picked Spectral Conclave versus Cave Goblins as the matchup because I knew exactly which faction I wanted to play if that was the matchup. Yeah. Whereas a lot of these other matchups, I wasn't sure which faction I was going to take. Like if he had chosen Grove versus Fallen Kingdom, I probably would have taken Chosen Grove. But like Drake's Son versus Vanguards, maybe would have taken Drake's Son. The one I really wasn't sure at all was like Savannah Elves versus Filth. Felt really pretty close to me, and I didn't know which one I should play as. And then Guild Dwarves versus Polar Dwarves also felt a lot closer to me. I probably would have taken Polar Dwarves because I really enjoy playing Polar Dwarves, and I like them a fair amount. But it felt like a pretty close matchup when I played it. I was happy that Spectral Conclave versus Cave Goblins was the tiebreaker matchup because I was...
You felt confident with Spectral Conclave would be the pick in that matchup.
Yeah, I was very quick to think I should take Spectral Conclave here. Because my game against Massimo, the other one was not as close. It went to the end game, but like he had 2 champs out in the end game and a couple illusions left, and I just kind of floundered at the end game. Cave Goblins, if you don't keep that pressure on the entire time, or if there's like a break in the pressure, sometimes you just flounder towards the end of the game, and that's sort of what happened. Like I got some good early pressure. I was getting a little bit damage on things. I was killing things well. But then in the end game, I didn't have any Enrage the Hordes lineup almost at all. So I didn't use them until the very end of the game, and they weren't very useful. So I played those poorly. But the game didn't feel that close in the end of the game. There was a couple champs out, and I couldn't deal with them.
That ended up being the deciding game, this matchup. Yeah, congrats again. Should we take a quick look at what the next ones are going to be?
Yeah, we can do that. The next matchups for this season, we have Obsidian Dwarves versus Tundra Orcs, which we have both played already. High Elves versus Polar Dwarves, so we got Polar Dwarves again. And Guild Dwarves versus Sand Goblins. Fungal Dwarves versus Phoenix Elves, which I hate that that's in there.
Is it a bad one for the Fungal Dwarves?
It's pretty rough. It's winnable for Fungal Dwarves. It's just one that I don't enjoy as Fungal Dwarves. Because Phoenix Elves have the ability to take out all of your units pretty easily on different turns. And so when they can board clear like that, it can really, really hurt your momentum as Fungal Dwarves. And you don't have the ability to sit back against the Phoenix Elves because they'll win that game too.
Storm Goblins versus Forge, people are saying it's hard for the Forge. That's the last one.
That's going to be probably rough as well.
Guild Dwarves versus Sand Goblins probably is going to break my brain. I don't know who approaches. I feel like neither faction wants to approach. They're just staring at each other from these lines of structures.
Yep, I think Sand Goblins will take that one.
I think I'm leaning that way too, just because they can kind of do the hit and run thing against the Guild Dwarves, and they have more way to project their power. Should be interesting to see. I'm sure there will be some surprises and different things going on.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen in Division 1. Most people have finished their first
and it's all one. It's all even, it looks like.
Yep. Everybody's got 1 win and 1 loss. I played one of my toughest opponents in the first week, which a bit anticlimactic. I played Exile in the first week. we split right off the bat, and we'll see what happens. I joked that maybe I'll see Exile for a tiebreaker. That'd be fun, but we'll see what goes on from here. I'm not sure some of these matchups are going to be as winnable from different sides, but I'm curious to check it out. Those last two matchups might be tough to take both sides of it.
But yeah, we should highlight a few things going forward. If any of you guys are going to Gen Con, you should be sure to try to check us out on the Discard for Magic Live. We'll be there. We're talking to Donald and talking to probably the tournament winner or whoever wants to chat. And maybe we'll take some input from the people there about things we should discuss, kind of like how we've done the thing like who would win a marathon or whatever. Maybe there's something like that we could spitball and discuss that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be fun to have Donald on. Donald's going to come on and talk about all the new factions that are going to come
So
out.
many new factions.
Yeah, in the new format. So it's going to be like the campaign factions and all those, most of which Donald has created and been the brain for. So it'll be fun to have him on and get his thoughts on those different factions and have him spoil a bunch of factions that we haven't heard much about unless you're a playtester. So it'll be a lot of fun to see that.
And yeah, be sure to let us know what you think about this format for an episode, because it's very possible we'll do more of these as we break down future seasons for the league, the SW Zone League.
And if you want to see any of the games that we played, let us know. We can drop links for them. If you're interested in any of the games that we talked about, we can show you what happened, or you can check out the links on the SW Zone website as well. They're all on there also. So this has been another episode of Discard for Magic, and we'll see you guys in a couple weeks.